Welcome back to Sim Sunday, and today we're in South America, Sao Paulo, Brazil, no less, and Guarulhos International Airport, the main, large international airport of Sao Paulo, Brazil. The only way to describe this episode, it has been my absolute nemesis. It has taken me 8 or 9 goes to make this video. I'll come back and I'll tell you a little bit more about that and why it has been so difficult when I'm in the cruise. But as you can see, we're in the Aerosoft professional Airbus A319 in the colours of LATAM, and we're flying from here in Sao Paulo to Rio de Janeiro, but Santos Dumont, the small city airport in the bay next to the city of Rio de Janeiro. Most av geeks will already be aware that the route, or should I say the air corridor between Rio and Sao Paulo, is the busiest in the world. And for those of you who are interested, the second busiest air corridor in the world, or air route, or flight route, is between Melbourne and Sydney in Australia. Right, getting straight into Sim Brief, it's a fairly straightforward 1-hour flight between these two mega city hubs. But the most challenging part of this flight is of course the challenging approach into the little city centre airport in Rio de Janeiro. My pre-flight checks have been completed, the FMC has been loaded, and of course the passengers are on board, so it's time to get this short but extremely challenging flight underway.
Captain, the cabin is secure. All passengers are aboard.
Commencing push. All engines clear. Start at will. Set parking brakes. Tow truck disconnected. Bypass bin removed. Left is clear. Right is clear.
Taxi holding point for runway 9er left using taxiway Hotel Bravo Golf entry 070.
Following the Airbus A321 in the colours, or should I say the old colours of TAM ahead of us, we're en route now to runway 09 left, our departure runway on this short flight up to Rio de Janeiro. I've got quite a bit of scenery to take you through while we taxi to the runway. First of all, the airport scenery that I'm using here in prepared 3D version 4.5 at Sao Paulo, Guarulhos is from Tropicalsim, but the scenery that you will see around us here at Sao Paulo is from Paulo Ricardo, but it's the FSX version. I never bothered to upgrade it to prepared 3D. It works quite well as long as you don't use the default airports that come with Paulo Ricardo for FSX in prepared, because the scenery levels simply don't work. And when we arrive in Rio de Janeiro, you're going to see scenery from Paulo Ricardo, and that is the FSX version of Rio City. However, before making this 8th or 9th attempt at this particular episode, I deinstalled the Paulo Ricardo airport at Santos Dumont in Rio and replaced it with the Tropicalsim Santos Dumont for prepared 3D version 4.5. Right, as you can see, the TAM A321 has been given clearance onto the runway, so we'll be next. Time for me to shut up and get this flight up to Rio de Janeiro underway.
Tower, entry 070, ready for IFR departure, runway 9er left, entry 070, hold short, runway 9er left, traffic is Airbus A321 on the runway. Line up and wait, entry 070.
Approaching 09 left. On runway 09 left.
4677, contact Sao Paulo departure on 125.6. Over to 125.6 on 467755. Country 070, cleared for takeoff, runway 9er left, service wind 09er 1 entry. Cleared for takeoff, runway 9er left, country 070.
Right, as I depart Sao Paulo Guarulhos, it's time to tell you a little bit about the difficulties that I've had making this episode. I first attempted to make this flight from Sao Paulo Congonhas in the GOL 737-800 of PMDG. The departure at the small city centre airport in Sao Paulo was really no problem at all. My problems began on the approach into the small, or should I say the tiny, city centre airport at Rio de Janeiro. The 4 or 5 attempts to land at Santos Dumont were 3 weeks before this flight, and therefore 3 weeks before I installed the Tropicalsim version of Santos Dumont Airport. Without a doubt, there were scenery layering issues which caused me to really struggle to get a smooth touchdown on the runway. However, I'm not going to profess that the landing in this particular episode is going to be perfect either, but the landing you're about to see shortly was without a doubt the best I've managed to achieve on this very tricky approach into Rio de Janeiro City Airport. The approach that I'm about to make is an RNAV into runway 20 left at Santos Dumont. And of course an RNAV is nothing like an ILS approach. And in this approach that I'm about to demonstrate, I'm required to get the aircraft down to 800 feet before turning 90 degrees to the right and putting this Airbus on a very short island runway. And of course on a two-dimensional PC flight simulator, that is a lot easier said than done. So with my excuses over for a pretty unsatisfactory landing in my opinion, I'm going to jump forward to the landing phase where I do manage to get this Aerosoft Airbus A319 in the livery of LATAM onto runway 20 left at Santos Dumont in Rio de Janeiro.
$500. $400. $300. 200. 100. 50. 40. 30. Retard 20. 5.
600 meters remaining. Approaching 0, 2, left.
I know, guys, it was a far from perfect landing. However, we're down safely and welcome to Rio de Janeiro-Santos Dumont Airport. I did try this flight again in the Boeing 737-800 of GOL in PMDG, but quite frankly, the landing was pretty ugly. I did manage to get down on a landing that passengers would walk away from, but there's no point showing you it here on YouTube. This was without a doubt the best landing that I managed, so I think I'll quit while I'm ahead. Okay, as we taxi to the gate, it's time to bring another episode of Sim Sunday to a close. In the next video, the real Airbus pilot takes us to the South Pole. Yes, guys, in Sim Sunday, we're off to a new continent. And of course, where else would you go other than the South Pole? So until then, thanks for watching, and wherever you fly in your virtual world, don't forget, fly safe.